Hi, I'm Tomas Evangelista,
I'm Neva Parker.
And I'm Bex Campbell.
and this is Our Own Heroes podcast, where we highlight everyday people doing cool stuff. People who show up to be their own hero.
Okay, full transparency to our listening audience. We opted to do an evening recording and also to have a drink. You know, if anybody's ever seen the show Drunk History, that is a good time.
Yeah.
Like you should, if you've not seen Drunk History, this is a shameless plug because it's hilarious.
Oh, it's crazy. I would watch it while I was at the gym.
So funny. People talk about historically, important things that happened in our country and the world and whatever, but while they're drunk. And so
Very
drunk. Very drunk. We are not
the next several days drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought we would try to have a drink or two and see if it was fun and what we thought about it. So
should we share what we're drinking? Maybe we should do that.
I love it.
I have Empress gin and tonic with a little bit of lavender infusion. Whew.
That's very fancy.
It's very fancy. But you gave me the Empress gin, so it's a pretty purple. It's a lavender thing for me tonight.
Or spring.
Yes.
I'm just having a lager, just a beer. Try to hide it over here in this cup, but it is Thursday, so tomorrow is the beginning of the weekend. So it's one of those days, Thursdays. You're almost there.
Thursday.
Exactly. But you're almost there to the weekend, so we're just trying to make it there. So yeah, I have a beer.
And much to Neva's chagrin, she knows what it is. I'm drinking rosé.
You do you.
I know. For folks who don't know, Neva is not a rosé fan.
Oh, okay. That's why.
No, you drink, man.
But that's what I have.
Yes.
So as far as people, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say they'll kick in at some point.
Oh, yes, I suppose they will. So one of the things that we were thinking about, talking about was people talking ish. So when as far as, our podcast goes and what we are hoping to maybe elevate the conversation on is when people are trying to do something, whatever it is, they're trying to pursue a dream, a goal, they're trying to make big changes, they have a mission, they have something that they're pursuing, and all they're getting is feedback and criticism. So that was one of the things that we kind of talked about. And then from another perspective, the all talk, no action, where a lot of people really have a lot of ideas. They're the idea folks, but they're not really interested in doing the work, showing up, actually, putting in the time that it takes to get things done. There's a lot, if you think about any goal, any activism, anything that you want to pursue, it requires really putting in the time. You have to do a lot of planning on the back end, a lot of networking, a lot of time strategizing, a lot of time putting together a plan for what you are trying to achieve. And so, I think just in my experience, I've encountered a lot of folks who have a lot of feedback about, any number of things I'm involved in, about the way that I'm showing up for those. They have a lot to say. They don't have a lot to offer in the way of action. So
and I feel like these things are like connected.
I agree. I totally agree. I think it's kind of same vein, but just different.
Yeah.
Everybody has an opinion about something, about like how people should do things. Not everyone, but there are certain people that just feel like their way should be the way, and if there's something different, then that's not right. And I'm not trying to call out a certain age group, because I'm sure that there are people like this in every age group. But I've noticed that in some things. And so it's very difficult sometimes. People really could take some of this criticism or ideas pretty hard, and some people can even think, oh, I must be doing something wrong. Like people are criticizing me or they're saying I'm not doing it a certain way. But then when you do it the way that someone tells you, there's somebody else that disagrees. And it like pulls you so many different ways. And I've, been in these situations where it's like specifically on campaigns or issues or how you should solve this or how you should speak and how you should present this information or this was missing. And I've noticed that it's there's always going to be somebody that you're not going to satisfy, that isn't going to get what you're doing, and maybe that's not for them. But I would say that take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, thank you for that feedback. And just try to continue moving forward. I think I in the beginning, when I probably back 5 years ago, it was very difficult to take. Um, and I was just really just feeling like I wasn't doing anything right in this arena or this political atmosphere. When I was speaking out on immigration and those things, it was very difficult. But then I slowly just started realizing, and it took somebody else to tell me, like, don't worry about what that individual or those people say. Focus on what you're doing. As long as you are helping people, being successful in your own way, that is what matters. Others will see. There's just always going to be those voices that have an opinion and just want to tell you what they think. So that's my
Oh, yeah.
Plus,
experience.
I'm super curious because I feel like that's a really emotionally mature and evolved response, right? Like one that maybe has taken some time. I don't know. But like, did you have to do any like internal work to get there? Because for sure, like when people come at me, I don't know if I'm there yet. Like my initial gut reaction is like, please. You know what I mean? Like,
Who the hell are you?
you better be kidding me right now. So I'm curious about like how you got to that point where you're able to like take it with a grain of salt and just move, keep it moving.
Well, it does come with experience. I did grow up with a family that was very critical, in a good way. My grandparents, and so I just kind of learned to take their information. But yeah, at first it was very difficult. Like I definitely felt like I needed therapy at the beginning, very early on. And I had friends, of course, that I would bounce some of these ideas off, and gladly some mentors that were there for me, and that I could rely, that I could trust with sharing like some of my concerns and what was going on. So I definitely didn't do this alone. Like I think it I think we should all have a trusted person. I can't imagine if I didn't have somebody that I could speak to about this and that was in my opinion mature enough to guide me the right way and help me uh, process some of this information. And so that was very helpful, but it was very difficult. I think the first year, I would say I started to become overly critical about what I was saying, how I was saying it, and even about the way I was speaking because public speaking is so hard, so difficult to
Mm-hmm.
share something to a crowd and they're expecting perfection and like complete, oh wait, you're missing this part. And just it was very difficult, but I learned, and I think some of the criticism did push me as well to improve on some things because there were also mixed in there was some good information on and feedback. It's so hard when it's all coming at the same time, and it's so I had to really distill some of that, and with the help of others, I was able to do that. Um, but it wasn't easy. So
Oh, so I'm
I know,
reading a
Diva.
book.
What was
Huh?
that? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, okay, I mentioned a book last week, and I've now moved on to another book.
Girl, you be reading some stuff. Look at you go.
It's called
Wow.
Double Gator, right? Okay, Naomi Klein. Naomi Klein. She actually talks about that in the beginning of the book. Anywho, she wrote The Shock Dog. And she's written several books, but she's mostly about like uh, like climate and like ecofeminism and all that other kind of stuff. It's really like she's written several books, won awards, great. However, she's confused with this other writer who started off as a feminist writer who then moved into the conspiracy theory world, especially like anti-vaxxers and all that COVID drama, right? And so she was getting mixed up online, social media, in the news. They were conflating the two of them. And by conflating, first off, started off with confusion, and then it started off with like completely conflating the two. Like she said this and she said that, and neither one of them said either one of those things, or one said the other. Anyways, people were getting them confused. So she writes this book, and it kind of dissects that a little bit. There's a part of it, and it through it why I'm loving this book, and I'm only like about 3/4 of the way. I'm about that far in. So anyway, she's talking about how words now are getting so misused that it's like at this point it's like not even worth talking, because the words don't mean what they used to. So like calling like the COVID vaccine passports, fascists. Well, that's not fascist. It's not like even Nazis. So like at that point, it's like you can't even use the word fascist in the way that we need to use it now, because it's been used in such a poor way that its meaning, one, people don't want to use the word, and two, its meaning is lost now. It's been so watered down. It's so interesting. Anyways, I highly recommend this book. But while I'm saying all of this, and we're going to have to cut this down because I'm still
That's okay. Go ahead.
But she talks about how, so some words have been co-opted to a point where their meanings aren't the same anymore, and we can't have language anymore. We can't have normal talks because everything is so loaded. And so she mentions Greta Thunberg.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to read this. She says, it's worth recalling that Thunberg's first protest was her refusal as a young girl to speak. She learned about the ecological crisis. She saw how little was being done about it, and she stopped speaking to anyone beyond her family. She started speaking when things started changing. The first small things, like members of her family committing to becoming vegetarian, and then larger things like millions of people joining climate strikes around the world. This is far more scathing than what she used to do at such esteemed gatherings. She used to scold, she used to plead, she used to cry. And though she was harsh to the leaders listening to her, her words still implied a kind of faith in them. But it would seem that Greta no longer believes in the theory of change. She has come to the place at which so many of us have arrived, the realization that no one is coming to save us but us, and whatever action we can leverage through our cooperation, organization, and solidarities. And so, I know, wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I bring this up because we could talk, trying to figure out what to say, like even for this podcast, trying to figure out exactly what to say in our subject that we've chosen for the week. How exactly am I going to say this? And are the words going to even matter anymore? Because at this point, people have already said, or they have already made up their minds about you right from the get-go. And so you can use the word fascist, and if they've decided you're some sort of tree-hugging hippie, this is what it means coming out of your mouth. And if they think that you're some like Trump flag-waving patriot, whatever, saying the word fascist means another thing altogether. And so it's completely like, what do you say? How do you say anything? Which then brings me to the second question about having tons of ideas, but like not wanting to do anything about it. Because what I got out of this was that you can say all you want, but you got to do. That's the only thing that's going to matter is the doing. The getting up and saying, I have this idea. It's important that I think it's so important to say something about. Well, is it so important for you to do something about? So anyways, there's a long roundabout way. I just highly recommend this book because it has thus far has put into words a lot of the feelings that I had through the pandemic about this is all crazy. It is all ridiculous. And we're somehow supposed to respond to this in a rational way. And there's just no way to respond rationally to the irrational. It's just not. I don't know how to do that. And the only other way I can think of to do that is by actual action. Like, okay,
Right.
you live here in this world of social media and in this world of, 200 and how long is a tweet now? Or an X, whatever. Well,
Oh,
so
160.
like 180 characters or 260 characters, whatever it is now. So you live in this world where that exists, or like your videos and all of that, and even in our little podcast world, like, but there's a real world where real things are happening and
Mhm.
people are actually doing work. And usually they're just going to work every day, doing their stuff. And, at this point, we just have to decide what the real world is, I guess. I don't know. But I don't know if that is answering the question because the gin is kicking in. But
You know what I am appreciating the line that you said about like if it's worth you saying the words, is it worth you doing the action? Like it does that, I feel like we should kind of meditate on that. Like if people feel like it's worthwhile to voice anger, frustration, rage, contempt, whatever the emotion, they want to talk about, whatever they want to see done, whatever, it's worth it enough to talk about it. Is it worth it enough for you to do something about it? Is it worth it enough for you to decide like I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to put my emotions, my beliefs, my values, my passion into action. And what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, so we had our communications meeting for the Auburn area Democrats. Our communications committee had our meeting, and one of the criticisms they heard from the AOC Bernie rally was that they didn't give them anything to do. So there was no action coming out of that. It was all words, 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 but nothing for anybody who came to that rally to actually do.
That's so interesting. I want to talk about
Right?
this, right?
Yes,
Like because I feel like it's so interesting that everybody is always looking for somebody else to tell them
Right.
what to do.
Yeah.
I would like to challenge people to look inside. I mean, this is going to sound so incredibly cheesy, but like look inside yourself. What do you feel compelled to do? If you see the world around you becoming something so unrecognizable that it frightens you, I feel like all you can do, like, I don't know that you can look to any one person, like someone give me an answer, someone give me an
Right.
answer. I feel like look inside you. What makes sense? What feels right? And I honestly think it's kind of interesting. I've talked about this before, but it's a form of like seceding your power, like you're giving it away when you're looking to somebody else to tell you, here's how you can make a difference. Here's how you can make a change. I think most of us know.
Yeah.
We know how we can make a change. We know. And that's not to say that, we shouldn't offer ideas to whatever, but I do feel like to some extent, I do think it is worthwhile to look inward and say, I'm scared. This is not good. What can I do? I know what to do. I have ideas. I have lots of ideas. And here I go. I'm going to go do them.
So what do we do about the people who come to you with tons of ideas, but they don't want to do them? Because that's happening. Got tons of ideas. Okay, great. You want to help make that happen? Let's do it. I mean, oh, no. I don't want to do that. Okay, well, who do you think is going to be doing this? Like, great, you've come. I mean, it's the next step in the next, because there is that element too of folks coming forward and saying, I think we should this, I think we should that. And then, great, who's doing it? Because it's the same 5 people. So you've just added something to my plate. Are you going to help?
Right.
Please. I would love for you to help. So, I mean, what do we do? What do we do about that?
I mean,
do you ignore it?
you just have to keep repeating that. You just have to keep reminding people, it's like, okay, great. Can you step in? And then if they don't, then they kind of have to shut up or do it. Like, I'm sorry. You just repeat it over and over again because there's nothing else you can do. You can ignore them, of course, but you just have to stand your ground. And then they'll hopefully the 5th time or something, they'll get it and they'll be like, okay, I have to be the one to take charge and do this, or wait, maybe I'll get a group to help me do this because it's better to have more than just one. So
Yeah.
there's nothing else you can do besides reminding them and telling them, okay, step in and help us do this because we only have so many hands, and with the more the better, pretty much. But I'm just really surprised that people went to the Bernie AOC rally thinking that they were going to get some instruction, some manual, some orders. Like, those rallies are inspirational, of course, and they do share on like what they're doing probably, and reminding people of their power, but they're not going to, one or two people aren't going to solve it, and whatever they even have you do isn't going to be the aha answer. It's the same thing that we've been doing for a very long time. It's organizing, it's getting people to collectively do something like boycott. Those boycotts have been working. Target, all the other places,
Mhm.
Tesla, they've been having an effect, and slowly it's doing something. It's not going to be overnight, but it's going to be long term, and it's going to take more people to 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 do something.
Yeah.
Protest where people have been showing up. I mean, it's continued, and people are going to the representative, continue doing that. And then when it comes to election time, of course, as we know, if you can donate, donate. If you can volunteer for a candidate, I encourage you to do that because the only way that we can get out of this is the next election.
Yeah.
Unless we all do a mass boycott, protest, something that has like more than half of the population taking an action, because that will turn some of our leaders' heads and be like, whoa, okay, this is, everybody's waking up. It's like that Bugs Life uh, movie, if you've ever seen that Bugs Life,
Long time.
where all the there's many of the ants, and the I want to say, I forget what kind of bugs they are, but the people that are in charge know that if all the bugs, all of the ants know that they can overpower them if they all just would come together and do something. It's like that. Like, we, once everybody comes together to do something, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. If we all come together to defeat this, in my opinion, very authoritarian, very fascist type of government, then we can get out of this and build something better. So
Yep.
it's going to take that, in my opinion. But people are not going to get it from a rally. They just need to realize that they need to step into this. And not everyone is going to be able to do everything. And so do what you can, is what I tell people. What is possible? I mean, I'm working during the day. I can't just and drop everything and do something. I gotta do things around my life, and I have to kind of weigh some of those things, and there's going to take some sacrifice, of course, but we all need to put in some work and
Yeah.
to do something. So
Ugh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to, I think, like, I'm somewhat emotional about all of this. And I'm trying really hard to not be.
You know what? I'm gonna say I think to some extent it's okay to operate in your emotion. I think sometimes we have to honor what we feel because it's telling us something that's real and honest. So I
Yeah,
feel like, it's
yeah,
okay
but
to lean into it.
I don't, I don't want to respond that way though. Like,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't want to, I don't want to, because it frustrates me. But I also understand that when it comes to this stuff, you will have the people who are the doers, and you are going to have the people who are just tell me what to do. And you know what? You kind of want that, I think, on some, and because, all right, you guys here, do this, this, this. Whether they do it, I don't know. But I mean, you have to have those people. And so I'm trying really hard to not view that as like a really like an obstacle. Like, in my mind, yes, it's frustrating. Yes, when somebody says, I think you should this, I think you should that. Oh, would you like to help? No, I don't want to help. Like, I'm just telling you. Like, okay, great. And then also you have the folks that are like, well, I went to this rally and nobody told me what to do. You know, that's frustrating, but there's some truth to that. Like, I think we have to kind of listen to it and realize that right now things are freaking crazy. There's no words you can apply to give meaning or to even like put yourself spatially into the situation. Like, because every day is literally, oh shit, this is actually happening. I thought this was fake. Oh no, it's real. It's happening. And sometimes I don't know if people's brains know how to sift through that. And maybe they do need somebody to say, just to smack them out of the, I know it's kind of a violent way of saying it, but like maybe that's what's needed. Like I would need it if I were completely stunned by the wild, crazy things happening. It might be helpful to have somebody snap out of it. Here, go do this. Yes, absolutely. I will mindlessly go do that because at least gives me something to do so that I'm not dwelling and getting angry and frustrated, and then getting idle and then possibly doing something more dangerous because I have all of this pent up energy. Maybe it is unwise to not give them people something to do. Maybe it was unwise on them not to. I don't know.
No, I think that's an interesting point. I do agree that when you are in a state of fear, different parts
Yeah.
of your brain are activated, and you need, like, executive functioning is not fully available for you.
Yeah.
And so it is hard. I think a lot of us are operating pretty regularly in various states of fear and anxiety, which is a really difficult place to live in because it's very taxing on the mind and the body, and
Mhm.
which impacts your entire social environment.
Mhm.
And so I take your point that some people are going to need help and direction because they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They're coping, and their ability to process all this information has been overwhelmed, and we can't fault people for that. I mean, that is the intention of a lot of what's happening. Is the intention is to overwhelm people.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important point. We have to give, I've said this before as well, but give grace.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a pain point for sure.
Definitely.
Like, yeah. And that, and it gets, as I'm looking forward or looking into the future, not for, well, I guess moving forward into the future of the next like year and a half and what to do and how to be. And um I realized why last election I was just so like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, because I just didn't. I mean, I didn't know how to make people feel better, if that made sense. Like I didn't know how to make people. And then right now, I mean, it might be a little bit easier, but I still don't know how to make people feel better. I don't know how to tell them and reassure them that,
Yeah.
that things are going to be okay. And oh, my dad said, after listening to the last podcast,
Oh,
my
he
dad,
listens? I love
yeah.
it. Thank you for
I
listening.
should, okay, maybe I'll give a criticism. What did my dad say? My dad said that just be positive, Nina. Be positive. You have to be more positive.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh,
In my opinion.
well,
I think that the dad did just, I think even him giving you some advice, I don't know. I find
No, it's good. It's good. I'm glad that they listen. I'm grateful that they listen. And I'm glad that they care enough
he's
to.
listening right now, so
He's going to listen. Yeah, he's going to hear it if I don't cut it out.
we'll see.
ultimate power.
Yeah.
I do want to add a little bit to some of our main topics. I did have a little bit of a story, soliloquy, if you're just kidding. No. But
We should preface these with saying, "Here's my soliloquy."
Yes.
it might run a little long, but it's when I was back when you emailed these topics, I was thinking about one story in particular. I've shared it before if you've heard me public speak. early on. It's something that happened early in my life. Not early, but when I was trying to go to college. But it's just to, I guess, connect it to this main topic, because the topic was people talking ish when nobody gets your vision and everybody's got something to say. But I did mention this a little bit ago. It's my grandparents. I grew up with my grandparents in Auburn. We immigrated here, and of course, they're not used to living here and understanding, like, you go to school, graduate high school, you should go to college or do something else with your life. But they did not want me to go to college.
Hmm.
Yes. Um, a- and I was 15 and I already knew that I wanted to get a college degree, continue my education. I thought that that was very important and that it's a way for myself and my family to move up, get a degree. And it's what we were told growing up in elementary school, middle school, high school, what college are you going to go to. So that was ingrained in me. But my grandparents didn't feel like that was something attainable.
Mhm.
And it was because of the situation, of course, being undocumented.
Yeah.
So at first I was very disappointed and thinking that they don't think I can go to college. But once we spoke about it, they said, I don't think you can. Others in your situation that are undocumented haven't done it. Like, it's very difficult. This was like 2006, 2007, when we were having these conversations, and they've never seen it done, like
Mhm.
with somebody that didn't have a social security number, getting into a 4 year, and plus there was also the expenses. We couldn't afford that. Like, is it worth it? You're going, even if you do get accepted, um, and you complete your degree, you spend all this money, but now you go out into the world, you don't have a social security number. You
Mhm.
can't work in the field. And for few people that were in my situation that were able to graduate, they weren't using their degree. They couldn't. They had to go to some other jobs. So I realized that it wasn't because they didn't believe in me, but it was because had never seen it done. Well, of course, I disagreed, kind of rebelled. I told that I kind of just be like, you know what? I don't need your help. I'm going to move to Sacramento, um, go to community college, American River, and do this on my own. And I remember getting in this big fight with my grandmother, and it was the first time I had ever, like, ye- not yelled at her, but raised my voice and talk back at her and say, "No, I'm going to do this, and I don't care what you think, and I will live on my own and do this." And so I did. And after the first few years, I think it was when I graduated. No, it was after my first year. She started believing in me and believing this was possible, watching me do it, and they started supporting and helping in other ways. But I just say that because sometimes people won't get your vision, and it's not because they don't believe in you, but it's because their own world hasn't seen it. It's they haven't seen it, so it's hard for them to believe
Do you
in that vision. So
do you think in some way they were trying to protect you too?
yes, definitely.
Hmm.
Um, they say that now they just didn't know. Other people come up to them that I don't know who they are, but they have heard about, oh, I graduated college and I did all these things, and they were like, wow, that was really cool. You should be really proud of them, proud of him.
Hmm.
And they they were trying to protect me. They thought like it would be a ton of money. My dreams
Yeah.
wouldn't be realized because of the situation. But I just had this faith and belief that I could do it. And
Yeah.
even the situation with social security numbers, um, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was like, we'll figure it out when we get there. And sure enough, when I was a junior in college, DACA happened, and I was able to graduate and have a work permit and be able to work in um, the field that I wanted to. So,
And
Well,
it's
it's interesting because I think when I had thrown out the like people talking ish and not seeing your vision, I hadn't really considered that people not seeing your vision could come from a place of love and support. It
Mhm.
could just be a lack of representation and not having seen the thing that you wish to do before and not really knowing what that journey looks like and wanting to protect you and wanting to keep you from having to go through the struggles and fight the fights. And so it's not really, they're challenging more than talking ish, right? They're challenging what you want to do, but it comes from a place of love. And so that's a really interesting perspective to take on it, is that sometimes people don't see your vision, but it's not because it's through a lens of not wanting you to have something good or do something that you really want. It's because they don't really know what that looks like for you. And they're not really sure how you're going to do it. And they want to protect you from potential failures or, pain, suffering, whatever it could be. And so I think that's an important
There was
thing
already an
to think
example
about.
too that they saw that I think around the same time period, somebody that was a few years older than me that tried and just spent a year or two in junior college and couldn't transfer to a 4 year because of the situation, similar situations. So, and they spent all this time and money and they couldn't do it. So they would bring up that example and saying like so and so couldn't do it, and so one makes you think that now it's
Yeah.
different. But I didn't have an answer, to be honest. I was just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna do it. I'm going to
Well,
try.
yeah, kids do that. That's what happens. It's like that's the lovely thing about having your brain not fully developed is you're like,
Yeah.
who's gonna go do it? And then you do, and it's great.
Right. Beck, what's your shirt? I see like a little like
I know.
lemon.
Like a lemon workout.
Gym and juice.
That's funny.
I don't know if people know this about me, but I'm a big fan of like whimsy and silly stuff. So like anything that's like silly, play on words, that's my jam. So yeah, I have a lot of shirts that are similar vein.
It's fun. I think you should wear them all the time.
Yeah, I think I will. I
Great
love it.
conversation.
I buy all kinds of fun stuff. I was gonna tell you guys a fun story.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's actually not even that fun. It's partially cooked.
Okay.
That's what I've been saying this week about things that are like, it's a part story. We'll see. Maybe it forms as I
I feel
tell
like
it.
that's everything I say. It's like partially.
Same.
I have a
No.
point, and I can never get to it.
Same. I was commuting to work, and there is going to be a podcast episode, and I don't know if y'all are fans or not, but I need to own up. I am a stan of the Jersey Shore. And I know that's a hard turn. I don't know which direction, left or right, but I'm a big Jersey Shore fan. Now, I lived in Pennsylvania when that show came out, about a couple hours from the coast, and so very close to New Jersey. And so I was very into that show. I just thought it was hilarious. My girlfriends and I would, Thursday night, we would watch that and Mob Wives, which was also an amazing show. Wish that was, I don't know that it's still going. I don't think it is, but also amazing. Anyway, Mike, the situation, I heard that he was kind of like a thing. I heard this podcast or this trailer for a podcast. They were talking about how, Mike has had this really interesting evolution. He started out on the Jersey Shore and he was, I mean, I don't really know where they were when they first started. It's a reality show, right? And they were like the pilot version. So, real interesting young people just like doing their life. And then he made a bunch of money through the show, and then he got in trouble. I don't know, tax evasion and something, and he served some prison time. And then he got out and got sober, and now he's like building a business and like doing the darn thing, but like sober with a clear lens, and he's married, and I think he has a baby and all this stuff. And I just thought, you know what? That's giving hero to me. Like I feel like, somebody who's rising above. So I feel like that, there's an evolution for everybody as you go through whatever you go through. And, coming out the other side, I thought that's pretty cool. And I will always be a Jersey Shore stan.
I do want to mention my hero for the week.
Yeah.
Beck, of course, you're the hero for the day, not for the week.
Woohoo!
That
Yay!
that was pretty cool. Watching you jump in action or hearing you jump in action, and also like everybody else that was a part of that, helping that guy earlier today, a few hours ago. But I do want to mention somebody. It's kind of a little bit sad because they recently passed, and it is a little bit religious. But I do want to say
Oh,
Francis,
yeah.
the Pope that recently passed away. I do want to highlight him as my hero. I am Catholic. I was raised that way, and I do still follow and believe some things of the Catholic faith. But I'm mainly Christian, I would say. I have the Virgin Mary over here.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention him just because he was different than other, I think, religious leaders. There was some highlights that he, or some importance that he emphasized on people that are struggling across the world. Of course, he mentioned immigrants, people in Gaza, Palestine, and also, of course, was showing an openness to LGBTQ. Some people do say, well, that's like bare minimum, and I understand that we do need our leaders, religious leaders, to do more for people that are struggling, that are marginalized.
It's a
But
big deal
it
for the
was
Catholic Church.
different. Yes,
Yeah.
it was a big deal, and
Right.
I always listened. And if you saw my Facebook post about this, he was the Pope of my young adult life, and seeing that I think did help shape some of my views about the world, about Catholic Church, and I think it's important. I think to highlight, and so for me, he's my week. He's my hero for the week, and also I think for other parts of my life.
All right, you guys. Are we
So
out?
should we end the
Yeah, we got to end this
Yeah.
shindig.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Much obliged. We'll see you, or you'll hear us next week. And hopefully we'll be in person. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will be so much nicer. You won't have to sit and look at lightsabers the entire time. Anyways, thank you, and go out and be your own damn hero. Woo!